Hello and welcome to another episode of Parentline podcast. I'm your host Roger Gowdy, and in this episode I talk to Q Radio presenter and Parentline ambassador Ibe Sesay. Ibe is a father of 4, I'm a father of 2, and so this episode was all about being a dad. We cover lots of topics like the changing role of fatherhood, what values we want to instill in our children, where we get our parenting styles from, and a lot of other things as well. So I hope you enjoy listening to it. I really enjoyed chatting to Ibe. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. Welcome to the Parentline podcast, where we discuss the joys and challenges of modern parenting and explore how we as parents can give our children the best start in life. So, Ibe, you are a father of 4 kids, and the eldest of which is almost an adult. I am a father of 2 kids, the eldest of which is 3 years old. So basically what this is a thinly veiled advice/counselling session from a certified veteran of fatherhood. So I just want to be transparent.
Somebody you're saying should know what they're doing, basically.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've got pen and paper ready, so, this is gold.
Okay, well, you said almost an adult. Katie turned 18 last week.
Oh, really? Did she? Wow. A proper adult?
So that was exciting and daunting all at the same time.
Wow, that's exciting. So tell me about your family setup. Who's there? Who's in the house?
So we've got Colleen, my wife, the foundation of it all. If I'm being honest, Katie, as I mentioned, who's 18, Molly's 15, Stephen's 11, and Daniel's 10. Don't ask me their date of births.
I know, to be honest, she hesitated on the age there. I was a wee bit worried.
I know their date of births. I do know their date of births. All off by heart.
Very good. So I imagine with that many kids in the house, lockdown was fun.
It was fun. At the same time, it was challenging too, Roger, because we're all in the house. We couldn't go anywhere. Normally we kind of escape each other's company. It was fun in some respects, whereby we did quirky things. Like, for example, I used to work every Friday, Saturday night. So getting an opportunity then to spend the weekends at home, we were able to do quirky things, play games, dress up. We did a murder mystery night where we all dressed up and everybody had a character, and that was great. We had a roller disco. We had quiz nights. We try to keep it fresh and do these things to keep us occupied and keep us sane.
Class.
So
sounds good.
And we got to know each other better.
Yeah.
As well, because we couldn't escape each other as such. Everybody has their own room and their own space, but we made a point of coming together once in a while and sitting down and having a chat, having dinner around the table.
I can't get that image of a roller disco in your house out of my head. That's something else.
Oh yeah, right behind me here, we've got an island in the middle, and so it was just, we were able to go right around, and they had a bit of a track and wore the floor and down, actually.
Yeah. And some really dodgy 70s, 80s music, I hope.
70s and 80s all the way. I didn't roller skate, by the way. I can't get a set of roller skates to fit my feet.
Sounds sensible. So obviously you are a Parentline ambassador. Tell me about why you wanted to get involved in Parentline.
Because I know the challenges of being a parent. I know that I'm lucky to have my wife, Colleen, to share that pressure, responsibility, challenges. We're lucky we have each other. I know that some people aren't that lucky. Mm-hmm. So to be able to come on Parentline and being able to, first of all, let people know the Parentline is there. It's, the guys in Parentline are amazing. They're at the end of a phone, confidential, no matter what. And just to get that message out there that there is somebody there to listen and to dispense advice, because a lot of people don't know that.
It's true. And if any parents are listening and do want to call about any kind of parenting issue, 0808 80 20 400, and that number will be in the description of the podcast as well. So is parenting something that obviously you come across as a really passionate dad and someone who really enjoys parenting. But is that something that has always been in you? Have you always thought, oh, I really want to be a dad? Or is it something that's kind of grown on the job?
No, it's from the get-go, from a young age. I come from a big family, in terms of there's a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins, and I've always wanted kids. Way back 18, 20 years ago, if you had have asked me, would you like a boy? Would you like a girl? If I was being brutally honest, I would have said I would like a wee girl. And I was very lucky because I got my 2 girls first, and then there was a bit of a gap. There was a gap for 4 years, 5 years, and then I got my son, and then 13 months later, I got another son.
And talk to me about that moment whenever you're in the hospital, your first child's just been born. Were you on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is pure fear and 10 is pure joy? Where were you?
Off the scale of like 20, 30 joy. It was just joy all the way. We were in the hospital and Colleen's waters had broke, and it seemed to be like forever. And I actually went to Smith's to buy Trivial Pursuit to play in the hospital with my mother-in-law, and put a couple of hours in anyway until what seemed all hell broke loose. And within minutes, seconds, then she was born. But my mum, she was working in the hospital, and I phoned my mum. And as soon as she came on the phone, as soon as I heard her voice, I just went to pieces. I couldn't even tell. I couldn't even tell her if I had a boy or a girl. I was crying.
Wow.
And it was just sheer joy. Roger, I'll never forget that.
Wow. Because I think I probably let a little bit of fear get in the way. I remember having to talk to myself. Whenever Finn was born, my son, he's 3 now, but whenever he was born, he was in the hospital for a couple of days, and I went home to get some sleep, and I came back, and I remember really vividly going along the motorway and having to talk to myself, because it suddenly just hit me, the kind of the weight of the responsibility and the fact that I was now in charge of, obviously with my wife, but in charge of this life. Did that kind of weight never weigh in your mind, or you just took it in your stride?
Well, the anticipation until that moment that the baby was born, it was joy, it was sheer happiness.
Yeah.
Then the baby's born.
Yes.
Right, and it's like, right, oh my God.
Game on.
we gotta bring it home. we gotta feed it. We gotta the car member spending, I don't know, an hour or something stupid trying to fit the bloody car seat.
Yeah.
All right, and like every small thing like that seems like you gotta nail it. You gotta do it right.
Yeah.
And so you're 100% right from that point of view. And then like that was the first one, and then the second one came along, and it's like, right. So we knew what to do before.
Yeah.
So it's not uncharted territory now.
Yeah. That was my experience as well. The second time round, I think I was able to enjoy it, and I was kind of conscious that the first time round, I think I just worried too much, and there's no point in worrying, because you're not going to be ready. You're not ready, right. But you'll learn as you go, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that feeling of taking the baby out of the hospital on day one, especially your first baby, and you're walking out going, are the alarms going to go off here when I go out this door? Is anyone going to stop me? Because I've got a life here. I think of like the 3 years I had to study for accountancy to work in anyone's books, and yet there was no training for parenting.
Yeah, no, none at all. And you get, the more you have, obviously, the more relaxed you become, the more you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like I worked late nights, and I used to be able to come home at 1:30 or 2 in the morning, do the maybe night feeds, come sleep or rest. I was able to do that because I'm a night owl anyway, and it was nice to be able to share that responsibility.
Yeah.
That was the girls. Then Stephen came along in 2009 rather, and we thought, right, we're like an old hand at this. And then Stephen's birth was, well, basically Stephen's shoulders got stuck. I'll never forget, the hospital room went from a trainee midwife, to doctors, consultants. All the midwives that were there all came rushing in, and I nearly passed out. had to sit down. Colleen, she handled it real well, and what seemed like 30 minutes was probably 30 seconds, and he was out. But that the sheer fear, like, oh my goodness. So that was scary. That was really scary. And then Daniel came along quite soon after, and they had to sit us down and explain, right, well, this happened with Stephen. This is worst case scenario. This is what could happen. And after being quite relaxed with the girls and up to Stephen being born, then it was sheer fear. Yeah. You know, you mentioned that earlier, and the fear was there then with Daniel. But Daniel, clockwork. Yeah. You know, when he was born, it was clockwork. And then I said, no more. That's it. We're done.
You've done all right, though. 4, that's quite an achievement. Yeah. Obviously, the role of a father has changed. Like, if you think even a generation or two ago back, a lot of men wouldn't have been at the birth. They maybe wouldn't have been changing nappies. The baby was very much kind of the mother's concern, and that there's been such a cultural shift there. Now, you're obviously a modern man, so I imagine you're right in the thick of it and changing nappies, but did that feel natural to you, or, you know, how did you feel about taking on that role?
No, I felt pretty confident in terms of doing things like that, changing nappies. I left Colleen to the breastfeeding now, to be honest with you. I let her look after that.
You're just right.
Nappies, I was changing the babies on my knee.
Yeah.
At one stage with my big long legs, I was able to do that, but I loved being, hands-on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, my dad and my grandfather, that was unheard of, to be changing nappies or doing things like that. It was just second nature, I guess. You know, Colin and I were in this together. But I would say it's maybe, not the case in all relationships. I would say that the mother in a lot of relationships would do the brunt of the changing and the feeding and whatever needs done.
Yeah, and every family's different, I suppose. And there is a kind of built-in inequality, if you like, for want of a better word, in that, if the baby is breastfeeding, that's a tough job and it doesn't always go to plan, and you feel as the dad sometimes a bit like a spare part and like you wish you could help out, but there's only so much you can do, kind of thing.
Colleen breastfed as best as she could with all of them, and I think it was Molly, and it was painful. It was really painful, and we didn't have anything. We didn't have bottles or sterilizers or SMA or whatever. We didn't have anything at all. And Colleen, I'll never forget this night. We were sitting, Colleen was in such pain and she was crying, and I thought, that's it. And I got in the car, 24-hour Tesco in Lisburn, and I spent, I don't know what I spent, and bought everything. There, half a dozen bottles, extra teats, SMA, and everything. Right, that's it. That more. And to be fair to her, she tried, but it just was too much.
Yeah. And the more you hear stories of breastfeeding, the more you realise it's not as straightforward as you might have imagined. Okay, so Abe, I asked you to do a bit of homework. I asked you to think of 2 or 3 songs that you associate with being a dad or with your kids. And I really wanted to impress you because you're a superstar DJ and you're really into these radio segments and stuff. So I thought about, I could maybe think of a really cool name for this segment and, use a bit of alliteration and maybe even just create a jingle. And it's the thought that counts. So it didn't happen, but, we'll move on.
All right.
So if you can imagine, we've just heard a really cool jingle and we'll start there. So what's your first song and why did you choose it?
The first song, Gladys Knight and the Pips and Midnight Train to Georgia. That's kind of our family song. It's a classic. It's an old 70s track, but it's just a song that makes us all feel good. And initially, we watched, as a family, we watched a program called Modern Family.
Yeah.
And it was highlighted in that a couple of times, and the boys latched onto it straight away, and they were doing the dance moves and made us laugh. So from that moment, that song has kind of been our Sesay family song.
Brilliant. I'm going to give you my first one then. Okay. My first one is Father and Daughter by Paul Simon. My dad played this at my sister's wedding during his Father of the Bride speech. And it was a real gushy moment. The lyrics are some really good Paul Simon imagery. It talks about, though I can't guarantee there's nothing scary hiding under your bed, I'm going to stand guard like a postcard of a golden retriever. And then the chorus, I'm going to watch you shine, going to watch you grow, going to paint the sign so you always know as long as 1 and 1 is 2, there can never be a father loved his daughter more than I love you. And Abe, there wasn't a dry eye in the house, as you can imagine.
That song, I'm gonna step out of shot, right, for 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
I've got hundreds of CDs in here, right? There it is.
Awesome. That's amazing.
We
didn't even talk about this beforehand.
That song is one of my favorite songs. Like yourself, we used it as one of our songs on the wedding DVD. And it's just it's a beautiful, beautiful song. Beautiful message.
Isn't it?
There'll never be a father loves his daughter as much as I love you. It's goosebumps.
Indeed. Okay, what's your next one?
So Barry White, you're my first, my last, my everything. Because our first Katie, I used to work in the Groovy Train in the M Club way back in the day, and we were always listening to 70s disco, and in the car, at home, wherever, and Katie picked it up really quickly. Listen, and that was the one track. She always, whenever we got into the car to go anywhere, Katie would always say, Barry White, and that was the song, and she loved it, and ever since, we've all loved it. You know?
Yeah. My second one is similar in feel, and well, not style, but for the same reasons. So my second one is Cola by Camel Fat and Elderbrook.
That's a tune.
It is a tune. That is a tune, all right. It's not chosen for its lyrics. I'm not even going to try and tell you the lyrics. This one is chosen because it was kind of on a playlist of mine that I was listening to around the time that Finn was 6 months old. And anytime it came on, his face lit up and he started bobbing his head and bouncing. I don't know why. I just had this instant connection to it, and it really made us laugh. It was like a family trick. You know, we used to bring it out at parties, and Finn's head would go. Oh, it was so cute. So that's always been kind of etched in my memory as Finn's song.
Well, similar to you, my third would be Fats and Small Turn Around.
Excellent.
Great dance track. Again, playing it, it came on in the car, and I was messing about with the boys. They were in the back, and I was ad-libbing, throwing in my own words, if you like, and the boys.
Do you want to give us a rendition now, Abe?
Really not. But the boys were laughing their legs off in the back of the car, and so every time it came on, then But it's amazing how songs immediately can transport you back to a certain time with your family or an occasion or whatever. Like music is a big part of our lives. You know.
Yeah, no, ours too. Okay, I'm going to finish up with my third. Then yours three were strong. Those are strong choices. My third is Daughters by John Mayer. Are you aware of that one?
Oh, John Mayer's amazing. I'm not aware of that particular song.
Yeah, and this was always a song I really liked. But I think having had recently a daughter, who's now about 10 weeks old, it's kind of been in my head. And it's about this relationship with a girl who is struggling with issues. She uses the words, she's like a maze where all the walls continually change. And then he kind of starts to realize that no matter what he does, there's nothing he can do to kind of help her because the issues have come from her childhood.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily tell you why, but it mentions the father walking out. And the chorus is, fathers, be good to your daughters. Daughters will love like you do. Girls become lovers who turn into mothers. So mothers, be good to your daughters too. And it's just been kind of on my mind I suppose, the responsibility and the example that you are as parents, and how if the example you set will be taken as the model for love and relationships and how you treat people.
Yeah.
And just the importance and the weight of that.
Yeah, an amazing sentiment, and I'm gonna have to go and listen to that song now.
Yeah. If I was a DJ like you and I had the budget of Q Radio that I could buy the rights to these songs, I could play it for you now, but I'll just have to put the links in the description.
Okay, all right.
Cool. Let's move on. So, speaking of you being a superstar DJ, you have a busy life, and I imagine when you're not in COVID times, your hours are fairly antisocial with being at events and stuff. So, how does that work, being a dad? How do you balance that?
Having an amazing wife, if I'm being honest, because I pre-COVID, I was working a lot, late nights. I was doing what I do on air, but there's a lot goes on off air too. We're out and about all over Northern Ireland doing different things, doing road shows and interviews and things like that. Award ceremonies, maybe late at night. And yeah, it's difficult. Colleen's able to come with me to some of those things so we can spend more time together, and as are the kids. But it wasn't always easy. And after kind of lockdown, it has made me appreciate being at home, like having to go back out and work on sociable hours. Once again, I could see it far enough. I really could. The extra few quid comes in handy, but no, it's priceless. Well, now spending so much time at home with my family.
Yeah, and you realize, I think COVID has probably taught us what is important and what's not important, but I think when you're out and about so much and you're kind of got your daily routine and your days are packed, time marches on so much quicker, and you kind of suddenly realize that years have gone past, and that's a scary thought. Did you see the BBC drama Us that was recently on?
No, but I've heard a lot of people talking about that, and it's something that I must watch.
You need to watch it. It's based on a book by David Nichols, and my wife and I watch a lot of Nordic noir and all those kind of dark Scandi stuff, and I found this way scarier than any of that, but it was just kind of mundane family life. And the reason why it was scary is because it was so relatable. It was so real. Like, it's basically this guy, Tom Hollander, plays this middle-aged man who wakes up one day and his wife says, I'm leaving you, that it's over, kind of thing. And there wasn't that anything happened. It wasn't that there was any betrayal. It was just kind of that everything had just slipped away. Right. And then it becomes clear that his relationship with his son, who's, getting towards adulthood and going to university, has kind of ebbed away as well. Right. And then they go away on holiday and they try to basically revive the relationships. And it just really hit home to me how easy it is to kind of coast and to not invest in your relationships, and how you could find yourself one day waking up and going, flip, I should have really invested more. And really being intentional about those connections. Yeah. And not that I think that's going to happen, but it was just like, it was so real that it's like, that's way scarier than any kind of, murder thriller that you think is probably never going to happen. But those things do happen. And, it is so important to invest in your family relationships, and yet the kind of day-to-day mundane busyness, kind of, it's so easy to detract from that, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%, Roger. And I'm one for taking millions of videos and photographs and keep memories. And every now and again, we would pull out old home movies from whenever the kids are born, or from birthdays or occasions or random different things, and just sit and watch. And until that moment, you think that, things are just trucking along. But then you look back and you go like, that seems like yesterday. Look at Katie now, who's 18. That's her whenever she was 2, whenever she was 4 or 10 or 10th birthday, first year. She's now up her 6th in Rathmore. We recorded the journey from the house to the school, and her first day, anticipation of her first day at school, and like, you think, where did the years go? And you'd give out anything to go back. And you wish their lives away, but it's human nature. It's what we all do, I guess. And sometimes it does no harm to take stock and just, realize what you have.
Totally, totally. It's funny how sometimes there's things that happen as a parent, and I don't know if this is your experience, but your reaction kind of surprises you, and it's actually maybe reminds you of maybe more how your mum and dad would have reacted. You kind of inherit these styles. Is that something that you found that you've either reacted against or kind of modeled your parenting style based on your mum and dad's, or what?
No, it wasn't really based on my parents' parenting style. We kind of just did our own thing.
Yeah.
I came from a very loving family, and morals that was instilled into us from a very early age. Right and wrong, manners, and so from that point of view, yes, that's been carried along, as well. Colin and I have found our own groove as such, and just doing what we feel is right.
Yeah. So you're saying that manners is one of those, kind of being courteous and mannerly is kind of a family value that you've inherited then, I suppose.
That's right up there.
Yeah. I think for me, probably, I always felt that my mum and dad really invested in me in kind of knowing what was going on in my life, and were really interested, and still to this day, like, they know the names of the colleagues that I work with and that kind of thing, and they've always got your back, and they're always excited when you're excited and that kind of thing. And I think that's really important, and something that I want to pass on, so that my kids feel that whenever they have news in their life, that Laura and I will be there, willing them on, because I think that's probably something really important, that you're your children's cheerleaders kind of thing.
Yeah, it makes you feel good knowing that your kids can come to you and speak to you about anything. No, and obviously you want to know what's going on in their lives. You want to know what they're doing in school, and like every day I'll come home from work, I'll get home to maybe 7:30, and I'll say, well, how was school? And to be honest with you, Roger, you'll get the same answer. Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But on the odd day, there'll be something goes down in school, and they're not afraid to tell you.
Yeah, no, that's really important. I know my son Finn has just started preschool, and I ask him when he comes home. Sometimes he says, "So what did you do at school?" And he says, "Good." And I said, "No, I didn't ask you whether it was good. I said, what did you do?" But that's all you get.
Yeah. You get the same.
But then information trickles out throughout the day. You get bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But it's weird to think of him. He's at that age now, kind of up until this point, especially with COVID. He hasn't really been out of our sight, and then he's got this own wee world now in school that, I'd love to be a fly on the wall, and it's probably healthy that I'm not. But, it's weird to think of him having experiences that I'll never know what they are.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's just to come.
Yeah. They pick up so much in school, and other personalities, and at that age they're like a sponge, and they just soak up everything, good and bad, I suppose.
Yeah. And you were talking about you and Colleen having your own kind of parenting style and your own groove that you've got into. Like, often in television and films, you see the dad and the mum having different parenting styles and kind of at odds with each other. And sometimes it's like good cop, bad cop. And usually the dad's the bad cop. Wait till your father gets home, or I'm going to tell your dad, or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you find that you and Colleen have different styles, and do they complement each other, or does it ever cause issues? Or
not generally. No, we're more or less pretty much singing off the same hymn sheet. I would say if Colleen was here right now, she would agree with that. The kids may not agree with that. It's very much a culture in our house. If dad says no, ask mum.
Yeah.
And vice versa, depending on what they want.
Yeah, that's probably similar. Laura and I would be quite similar as well. And actually, I can't really imagine if you had totally different values or styles as parents. I imagine it would be really tricky.
Yeah.
You'd just constantly be at odds with each other. I suppose my style is slightly more. I tend to use logic and rationality far too much. See, with a 3-year-old, logic and 3-year-olds don't work. Whenever Finn's having a tantrum, or I quite often will find myself trying to like logic my way out of it for him, explaining this is why this is happening, and this is what's going to happen if you do this. And meanwhile he's freaking out, and Laura's trying to explain to me that his brain's not ready for it. But she's a trained play therapist, so I feel like she's got a bit of an advantage on me. If you could click your fingers and instill like one core value in your kids, what do you think that might be?
Respect others. Treat others how you would like to be treated. I think that would be up there, and as I mentioned before, the manners, common courtesy, because that gets you a long way in life.
Yeah, no, very true, very true. We have a print on the wall in our house in Finn's room, and it's a Charlie Mackesy print. Have you heard of Charlie Mackesy? Yeah. So he's got a brilliant book. What's it called? The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Oh. And it's one of my favorite books. It's just full of illustrations. There's one little picture, and it's the fox and the mole and the horse and the boy, and it says, "What's your best discovery?" Asked the mole. "That I'm enough as I am," said the boy. And I just love it. Yeah. And if anything, for my kids, I would just want them to grow up knowing that they've got everything they need, that they're enough in themselves, that they don't have to be anyone else, that they don't have to compare themselves to their peers. I don't think there's any easy way of transferring that message or that value. I just think, I suppose it's a drip feed over time, and hopefully you feel that comes across, that you get that across to your kids, that you instill that in them. But I'd say that would be mine. I think actually that what flows out of that is respecting others, because whenever you respect yourself, then I think respecting others just naturally flows, doesn't it?
Yeah, it comes along. Yeah, 100%.
You and your daughter have recently, I saw on Twitter, you've recently been part of a documentary called Black and Northern Irish. Tell me about that. How did you get involved in that?
Well, a Scottish filmmaker, he made Black and Scottish. He has taken that and ran with it in Northern Ireland. And basically, it's just people of Black origin telling their story, growing up somewhere that they might be regarded as different. My dad moved to Belfast in the late 70s to study in Queen's, met my mum. I came along, the rest is kind of history. But growing up as a minority, in Northern Ireland, had its challenges. And basically what it is just telling my story. There's myself and maybe 20 others. My daughter, she got involved as well.
Molly, she got involved.
Yeah, Molly got involved. She's not one for the limelight or for the camera or for whatever, but she wanted to go. She's very interested in her Black heritage. And she wanted to go down just to have a look and find out a bit more about others. And then they asked her, would she be part of it as well? And she reluctantly said, well, yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's going to be hitting our screens, hopefully, in Northern Ireland pretty soon.
Wow, no, look forward to seeing that. That'll be brilliant.
Yeah.
And is that something that's on your mind, as a dad, bringing up kids in a world, does that kind of increase your desire to create a world that is tolerant and respectful and, doesn't have inequality baked into it? I'm sure those things, those values are really important for you, given that you're thinking of the world that your kids are growing up in.
In the world that I've come through over the past 40 years, just 40 years, and I've had my challenges, and it's getting better. Thankfully, it is, and we have come a long way. We've still got a long way to go, but it's getting better and better and better, and I hope that my kids don't have to go through and endure some of the hatred that I had. And don't get me wrong, there wasn't a lot of it, but there was some of it, just because of the colour of my skin. And it's not right. And it would break my heart for my kids to feel like that just because of the way they look. I can handle it, but it's a whole different issue whenever my kids have to go through it.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad to hear that you think it's going the right way, and I genuinely hope it is.
It definitely is. I'll give you an example, which will make you laugh. Coming out of a bar, not that long ago, with some friends, I walked out of a bar and these two wee lads came flying past on their bikes, nearly knocking me off my feet. And one of them shouted, "You baldy, such and such." And I went, you know what? I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Don't know if that's totally positive that you would take it one insult over another, but I suppose that's progress.
It's progress, Roger. Believe me, it's progress. I've been called much worse.
Listen, thanks so much, Ibe, for your time today. I really appreciate you being on the podcast. It's great to chat to you.
No, listen, it's been a pleasure. And again, it's been a pleasure to be part of Parentline.
It's great to have you on board. Thanks so much.
All right, Roger.